Ave Maria, everyone. Welcome back to the Roman Martyrology. This is November 2nd, the commemoration of all the faithful departed, in which the loving Mother Church, having already celebrated with fitting solemnity the joy of all her children who rejoice in heaven, now earnestly strives to intercede with God for all souls who have gone before us with the sign of faith and rest in the hope of the resurrection, as well as for all from the beginning of the world whose faith is known to God alone, that, purified from the contagion of sin, they may be admitted to the fellowship of the citizens of heaven, and be able to rejoice in the vision of eternal beatitude. The commemoration of Saint Victorinus, Bishop of Puj in northeastern Slovenia, who wrote many works explaining the sacred books of the Bible, and who, in the persecution of Emperor Diocletian, was crowned with martyrdom. At Trieste, in northeastern Italy, Saint Justus, martyr. At Sebaste, in Armenia, the holy martyrs Carterius, Styriacus, Tobias, Exodius, Agapius, and their companions, who, under Emperor Licinius, were cast into flames, because, though they were soldiers, they remained steadfast in the faith of Christ. In Persia, the holy martyrs Acindinus, Pegasius, Apthonius, Elpediphorus, Anempodistus, and very many companions, who are said to have suffered under King Sapor II. At Vienne in France, Saint Dominus, Bishop, who devoted himself to the work of redeeming captives. The commemoration of Saint Marcian, hermit, born at Chirus, who withdrew to the desert near Chalcedon, where, living in a most narrow cell, he took food only in the evening, a small portion of bread and water, but nevertheless gave more importance to fraternal charity than to fasting. In the monastery of Saint Maurice in Valais, Switzerland, Saint Ambrose Abbot, who first as abbot of the monastery of the Ile Barbe near Lyon, France, and then was when transferred to Switzerland, upheld his praiseworthy religious observance and established perpetual praise of God in that place. At the spring in the place called Holywell in Wales, Saint Winifred, Virgin, whose memory is devoutly venerated among the nuns. At Vienne in Burgundy, Saint George, Bishop. In the monastery of Clairvaux in Burgundy, the passing of Saint Malachi, Bishop of Down and Connor in Ireland, who restored the life of the church in those places and governed the Roman Church on his journey. At Clairvaux, in the presence of the abbot Saint Bernard, he gave up his spirit to God. At Mortain, in Normandy in France, Blessed Margaret of Lorraine, who, formerly Duchess of Alençon, after being widowed, led a most religious life in the monastery of the Poor Clares that she had founded. At Andover in Hampshire in England, Blessed John Bodie, martyr, who, a schoolmaster under Queen Elizabeth I, for refusing the spiritual supremacy of the Queen, was hanged and disemboweled, professing the faith. At Casale, in the March of Ancona in Italy, Blessed Pio of St. Aloysius Campidili, religious of the Congregation of the Passion, who, as a young man, struck by a violent illness, humbly accepted his suffering in perfect conformity with the divine will. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Ave Maria.